This is the Vaxis ATEM 500. It's a pretty new product on the market. They had some really cool features that I really like. But first, let's take a look at why you might want HDMI wirelessly happening from one place to another, as opposed to maybe just hooking up your camera and recording over there. I am sitting here with a Canon XF400 and I've wanted to do live streaming. So I have it set up so the camera's over there. There is an HDMI transmitter up there. It comes down to an HDMI receiver down here and it comes into the computer. And what happens is I can live stream without having cables and cords going all over the place, which kind of drives me nuts because you start hooking up HDMI cables and XLR cables for your audio and cables for my ATEM Mini Pro and my Stream Deck and my Mix Pre. I mean, I got cables everywhere. One less thing I have to worry about is yet another cable going around and trying to wrap it around. For live streaming, I use OBS. You can use whatever you want, but it also has recording capability. So that way I can just sit here and record episodes right now while I'm working on the other main studio and not have to worry about pressing record and my Mix Pre 3 and the camera and everything else. I just stream it right over here into my computer and I'm good. There's this B-roll table where I use to shoot various things and show you product. I can also hook up another camera over there with an HDMI transmitter and feed that over here. I can also hook one of these HDMI transmitters into the studio on my other camera over there, have it feed over here, and what happens is I can use like a switcher on my iPad or something where I'm controlling OBS. I can get up and go to the B-roll table, switch to that scene, I can switch to that scene, I can switch to this scene, and I don't have to have an HDMI cable or something running. It's got to be at least 30, 40 feet or something like that. What I'm most concerned about in my situation is that when I hook one of these transmitters or receivers and I'm able to sit there with a monitor, I'm able to get the signal to go through these really thick walls, all the Wi-Fi signals and the phone signals and the iPad signals and the computer Wi-Fi and the computer Wi-Fi downs, and there's stuff going all over the place. I want to be able to monitor or look at that through all these walls and things. There's metal plates in the wall. There's a lot going on. All right, let's take a quick look at what comes with the unit. Instruction manual. Mine was in a foreign language, but online I was sent one that's in English. The transmitter, TX. We have the receiver, RX. Oh, this is cool. This is nice. This is a nice little mounting. Like you could mount the receiver on here. It's got a nice little pad. It's all metal, basically a cold shoe mount, and it's adjustable. These are really handy to have. Usually when they ship these things, they don't ship you two for each unit, mainly because you're usually mounting your receiver differently than you are your transmitter, and plus it just ups the cost of the thing. But this is actually a really nice touch. Next is these little screws and this little dude. What this is for is being able to mount on either the receiver or the transmitter. This little cold shoe mount comes with little screws and the Allen wrench, and you just screw them in there, and that's nice if you want to mount the thing in some fashion instead of using this. Now, one of the cool things I noticed in here is it's a USB-C USB cable. And I thought, well, that's cool. What happens is on each of these units, there's a USB-C connector. Normally on these units, when I receive them, they either have no AC power, which I object to because I use these all the time in the studio. If I go out, sure, I'm going to use the battery, but in the studio, I don't like to rely on power. I like to use AC power. And they usually have some funky connectors. You got to buy some extra connectors and everything else. These things, I wish they would have included two with the unit for each of the units, but they're so readily available. I mean, I got these things all over the place from all sorts of different products. They work no matter what you get, and they're really, really cheap. So if you're going to go AC power for both units, you just grab another one of these. That's really cool. USB-C to power this thing is really, really cool. I I just think that's awesome. Now, the most interesting thing I noticed about this, and we'll test this later, is there's no antennas. Usually they have giant antennas sitting out here and they break off or something like that. The antennas are built into this black top here. Let's just take a look at the transmitter first. Of course, there's where you can mount that cold shoe mount. This is the antennas, which are built in. It's got a OLED display screen. We'll take a look at that in a moment. On the side, quarter 20 mount, which is awesome. Flip on button here. It's a press on and off. I don't like really on these units where you have to press and hold a button to start the thing up. It's kind of hard. I like the tactile feeling of this. Another quarter 20 on the bottom of the transmitter, which is awesome. And over here, which is really neat, I've talked about the USB-C power, which is awesome. There's an HDMI in that would come from your camera or your source. And they also include an HDMI out, which is awesome. When you only have an HDMI in and you're transmitting to something else, that means if I wanted to connect up a monitor to my camera or whatever, that would be a real pain. And you'll see some little holes here, and that's because it has fans in it, but you can control the fans. Quarter 20 on the bottom, and here's the back. Now, usually when I get these units, I plug in a battery, and they're usually Sony L mounts. I use these big chunky batteries. When I do use batteries, as I said, I usually go with the USB-C cable or the power cable when I'm in the studio, so I don't have to worry about powering batteries and batteries running out on me. I got too much stuff going on. So I usually use these giant chunky ones, and every single one of these units I've got has been a real pain so far. At least 3 or 4 that I have from other manufacturers. When I go to put it in, it's really hard to get in and really hard to get out. This simply goes in like this, and it locks really nicely. It wasn't hard to get in, and that's not coming out at all. I can just press this button, it releases, and it slides out beautifully, and I love that. I hate struggling with gear and, oh, but it's tight. I just don't like that. Now we simply flip the switch. The unit powers up. Now immediately, you'll notice when powering it up, there's a slight fan noise. And we'll get to that in a minute because you can adjust the fans in these, which is actually a really great feature. The menus are pretty clear. I've asked them to do a couple of things, which is to add into the next firmware update that this stays on a little longer or is adjustable because it keeps turning off on me. The other thing is they show centigrade and they don't have the option for Fahrenheit for us US people that can't get it through their heads that there's a metric system and it probably works better. See how that turns off? I'd like that to stay on a little longer. They did that to maintain and give you lots of battery life. Now, if you look, it says I have no signal right now. I'm not sending anything. It shows over here what the unit's currently operating at, 40 degrees centigrade. I've had this on for a while. Down below is the fan controls, and then over at the bottom right, it's currently on this unit using 6.5 volts, and then, of course, the channel that you're connected to. Now, going into the menus, you can just turn it on by hitting a button. This is the up, this is the down, this is the menu. If you hold this down for a 3-second press, it goes into the menu systems. They're pretty simple. Again, this is a new unit, and they're going to be updating the firmware and doing things with it. Let's take a look and see what they have here. There's pairing, whether you want to pair individually or auto pair. That's on, that's off. Let's just keep going. That's how you select things like that. Let's go to the next menu. There's an SSID and also a password. That's for using it for a phone, and I'll show you that in a moment. This just shows whether or not it's connected or not to the receiver, whether or not I'm going to use the phone app to monitor, which, by the way, if I'm sitting here with a monitor on the HDMI out, and I also will show you there's 2 outputs on the receiver, and I can monitor, I believe it's either 3 or 4 devices on iPads and phones for both Android and Apple on the app. That's fantastic. Let's continue to go through these menus. Next is the version. This is currently 2.0.1. I would expect a firmware update coming pretty soon from them with a few new features. And then, of course, return. And then I'm back to the menu. Now, this button over here, although when you get into the menus, it's up and down, it has an interesting feature. If I hold this down, it blinks. I'm in auto fan mode. I just turned the fan off. Can you hear it? That's fan low. I just turned it to fan high, which will keep it cooler. Now here goes fan off. Now I've had fan off just sitting here. It gets to about 40, 43 degrees, not bad. Let's go take a look at the receiver end and I'll show you the similarities and the differences of what we have here. Again, we have the same great battery that goes in and out on this thing simply and locks. We have the cold shoe mount up here that we can add here. We have a 1/4-20 on the bottom. Of course, no antennas, which I absolutely adore. We have the hard on and off switch, which is great. We have a 1/4-20 on the bottom. And then over here on the side is where this really shines for a unit of this price. If you look at this, we of course have the USB-C again, which I really appreciate. We have the transmitter transmitting a signal to the receiver. So on the transmitter, I have the transmission signal here, and I also have the ability to do another out. Now this has an out, which may go to another monitor, or may even go to your computer, and has yet another out, which you can connect to another device. So you have the transmitter transmitting its signal over here. You have another HDMI monitoring device, or possibly something else coming out of here. Signal comes in here. You have another HDMI out, which you can connect to a computer or connect to something else. Another HDMI out. There's a lot of features for this. No antennas. I'm pretty excited to test this thing out and see how this thing's going to work. Again, it's a basic flip switch. The unit comes on. I just turned the fan off again. Now, there's absolutely no noise coming out of this. We've had this sitting over here. Let's check it. It's about 41 degrees centigrade. That's fine. Again, the same thing. Here's your signal strength up here on the top left. The fact that I'm not transmitting any video, the centigrade, the fans, the channel, and of course, this particular unit is using 7.6 volts of battery. Menus are the same. Hold down for 3 seconds. Again, we have pairing, how we want that to work, whether we want on-screen displays. Now remember, that's in the signal. We're just going to leave that off, the default. Again, an SSID for monitoring. Again, a password for monitoring. This is interesting because on here you set the latency. Now, the latency is set by either doing, I want the image to take priority over this, or I'm going to accept some latency. Basically, if I set it to image, not the default, it's going to really push that through. Now, the thing I didn't mention about this is one of the things about this is it also transmits audio. This is important when you're looking at a wireless transmission unit. You want to have it also transmit the audio. Potentially, I could be sitting in the studio over there recording something into my camera and have this connected up and have it transmitting into another room where it's being recorded separately. I want that audio captured. It may not be the greatest. It may be reference audio depending on your setup, or it may be the original audio that you really want. That is a really a great feature. Back into the menus. And of course we have the version 2.0.1, which is what I want, and then return. All in all, these units are really nice. I'm really impressed with the units. There's a few features I'd like to see added, which they've told me they're going to add. I mean, that's why we do this, so we have firmware. Now let's get into the actual testing and usage of these things and do some tests. All right, well, this should be interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this monitor here, and I'm going to hook up the receiver to this. That way I can hook up the transmitter to this camera over here and have something moving, and then we can just take this whole monitor and walk away and see how far this distance is. So I figured, well, I need to attach the receiver to this, and I need to attach my Osmo actually to this somehow so you can see what I'm seeing. So I went out and found a bunch of these little spare parts sitting around, and I'm going to try and rig something together here. I figured I'd include this for you because you're probably going to find this rather amusing. Okay, so I got this whole thing all tightened down and all rigged up. Okay, we got everything set up here. What I'm doing is I have this unit, the Vaxis, sitting here, and it is being fed from this camera up here. Crazy rig that I've set up here. I should be able to turn all this on and get some sort of connection. My GoPro is seeing both this unit and both this unit. And then we're just going to switch this sucker on and just let it spin and spin and spin so we can see what's going on. All right, now as you can see, I'm starting to walk out of the room. I'm right now looking into that, and here's the studio, which you can't really see. It's a mess. I'm going to try and rearrange this thing a little bit. Now notice it's still spinning and it's still transmitting. Here I am in my studio, which is currently a total shambles. I'm easily, the door down that hallway, I'm easily 20 to 30 feet from where that's happening. It's going through 1, 2, 3 walls, including a bunch of tile. And as I can see here, it's still transmitting. Let's just keep walking. And I am easily 40 or 50 feet away from this thing. There are a ton of things it's going through. The signal seems fine. It tells me it's doing 1080 at 60, which is fine. Down here, I'm going through a lot. This is a common area. I got microwaves. I got Wi-Fi going on. I got a ceiling, maybe 50, 60, 70 feet up the stairs and that way. And I'm going to keep going. Let's see if I can actually get this thing outside. That would be kind of cool. That's incredible to me that that's still spinning around. I am really, really far from this thing. Let's really push the edge and see what happens. So I know this thing's going to cut out at some point. Looks like it stopped there for a moment. That's what I wanted to have happen. Now if we come back, that's what I wanted to see, is if it does stop, does it continue moving? Does it connect back up, or is there a problem? This thing's just cranking away. Let's go back inside. Now we're headed out into the garage area. It's still going around. It's still happening. It's still got a signal. It shows me on there that it actually has a good straight signal, which is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. And the fact that this thing has just kept spinning, the only time it chucked a little bit was outside, headed into a bath area. And I'm sitting here back in a closet. Let's go all the way back. Man, I have so many walls and things going on here. You would not believe it. Back down this hallway. And here we are. This thing's still pumping out this signal. To me, that's freaking amazing. And the fact that the darn thing is wireless, are you kidding me? That's amazing. You see that lag? That lag is not from this. This has less than a millisecond lag. Almost every monitor, especially the old one like I'm using, will have that occurring. Let's take a look at the phone app for the ATEM. Basically, you download the thing, connect to the device, the password and everything on there that they supply you. Click connect, and here I am. You can see me. I'm turning around, and this is directly what's coming off the phone. Let's walk away and see what we get. Make sure it's still going. I'm going to spin the chair a little bit. This is not bad. I got a spinning chair, so there's some action in there, so it seems to be okay. Let's sit back down, see what we got here. You can see here I'm on the phone and I'm monitoring what's coming through there. Now there's a record button. You can record stuff with it. There's also other features with it. That's how I got this, was I recorded with it. You have an exposure setting, which you could take a look at. You can see the sword lit up a little bit overexposed, and a peaking function, which turns you into a devil person. Let's turn that off. There's all sorts of other stuff you can do with this. You can mess with the brightness. You can mess with the contrast of the thing. You can mess with the sharpness, which is kind of neat. And focus peaking sensitivity. They got security in here. You can hit over to the grayscale and turn everything gray and put on a centermark if you'd like. It's pretty cool. I like it. Then you can go ahead and record. I'm not even sure that's working, and you can take a photo. So that's the Vaxis. If you go to the main menu, you can see the version and whether you're connected, if you need a firmware upgrade, and then some disclaimers and some about us. I really like the Vaxis ATEM 500. The features of it being a USB-C and me being able to plug it in with all these fancy extra cables that I have to buy. The fact that it doesn't have the antennas sitting there on top that break off and are really a pain. The fact that it really withstood a really cool test in this whole space. I mean, I went, well, you saw what I did. That was insane. This thing is really, really good. So I can set one up here and here, and that way I have no cords running around. I can vacuum. I'm not tripping over stuff. I can set one up in the new studio that's being built out over there and transmit into here to the computer also. I could set one over at the B-roll table and transmit over to here into the computer also. And then what I plan on doing is just having a remote pad sitting there controlling everything. So I can go to that camera or that camera or that camera and just switch things up and record all in one place. I think it's going to be awesome. Highly suggested. Check it out. The links are in the description below. And by the way, check out the free courses over at Basic Filmmaker University. Also, don't miss out on the stupid, amazingly low price on the new YouTube Academy course. I reduced it like boom for these times. Well, these times are getting better. We're coming out of that, and I'm going to be taking that away, and you'll never see that again. Plus, something really cool is, I got to tell you, coming in June, I believe either the beginning or the mid of June, I have a wedding videographer who's been doing that for 10 years. She's also a cinematographer who is creating a course for me on how to get into wedding videography from start to finish, what gear you need, contracts, how it all works, how you get into that field, like everything that you need to know how to get into that. I'm really excited about it. Plus, if you're interested in getting into that field, you'll be able to look at that and go, oh, I understand what I'm getting into. Plus, if you're sitting there and you know someone who's going to have a wedding, they're going to hire a wedding videographer to do it, they can go through this course and look and go, aha, this is what this person is supposed to be doing. I can even show them the course and say, these are all the things I want you to do. And the guy will be like, wow, this person really knows their stuff. And then you can like hire someone who actually will give you a good product and a good job. Anyway, really, really excited about that. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Seriously, I'm thinking like maybe I should get a patent on this thing or something, or, maybe do like a fundraising thing and put together this rig for people who want to take a action cam or a GoPro and use a paint stick and connect it up to a monitor and connect it up to an HDMI thing and be able to use the receiver over here, which would usually be the transmitter, and then actually use the transmitter over here and connect it up so you could do it reverse and monitor things. I think it would be a giant hit, and I think it would be pretty much awesome. What do you think? Should I start a campaign?